Hello and welcome to the Sanctuary, a safe space to speak from the heart. I'm your host, Israel, and my guest is someone that we've talked a couple of times before. I've had him on the Off Kilter show, and I love playing his music. Joe Hubley, thanks for coming to the Sanctuary today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, what are you currently working on? Let's start with that.
I got a lot of things on the go. It's been a busy little restart from when everything was dropped and nothing was going on. But I've been able to bounce back, which is, I guess, a blessing if you think about it. But I have a lot of things regarding music going. I'm putting out a record before the summer, which I'm very excited about. It's all produced by me. I play all the instruments, and it's kind of it's a project that has a piece of my soul in it. So I'm very excited for that. And yeah, I'm just playing around, filling in for other people, playing as many different genres and sounds and bands as I can.
What's the record gonna be called?
So it has a couple working titles right now, but I like to do that stuff right when I'm about to release it because I don't want it to be like something that feels outdated. Like after and it's like, I like it to be, named, the artwork, everything like in the moment, so it really represents like how I'm feeling at that moment and like what I feel like the overall sound of the record is. But it has a couple working titles so far, but nothing too crazy.
So, do you have a date in mind?
I'm thinking I'm gonna release a single around late May, early June. The record should follow. It's a relatively small EP, more record, just kind of trying out a couple different ideas. But yeah, it should be around I'd say around mid to late June.
And how many songs are on there?
About 4 or 5. A little taste.
Oh wow. I mean, so how many instruments do you play? Not just on the record, but just in general?
Man, a handful. I'd say about 8 or 9. I don't know. I try and play, everything I can. I started out on drums was the first thing that I did, and I just, hitting it just felt good, hitting all the drums, making a lot of noise, and I was like, yeah, I could really do this. And then, after that, follows like guitar and whatnot. But I don't know. The thing with me is that I just kind of like to, play everything I can get my hands on. But I'm not much of a lessons guy. I think I just kind of like to, sit with it. And me and the instrument will communicate. We'll see what happens. And whatever sound comes out, then I guess that's the sound the instrument's supposed to make then.
So are you saying you pretty much taught yourself how to play all these instruments you play?
I don't know. It sounds like I'm pretty odd, but but it's like I guess I don't know. It's something that I feel it's important for everybody to have a certain artistic output, or I think it's therapeutic for everyone to just have that side of themselves where they can sit down and just communicate with this instrument. This instrument will communicate back, and that's the music. And I think it's very important for everybody to have that in some form, some capacity, whether it's, you're slapping your chest, making a little beat, or you're singing opera. I don't know. There's two extremes, there's two balances. And I think if everyone should be able to fit in there, and everyone can fit in there in some capacity. But I think the way I operate is just kind of, I like to just sit down and I don't know, I love, collaborating with people and hearing other people's techniques. And it's not that I have nothing to learn, but I don't know. It's better when it's just, on my own time, on my own terms. I feel like I learn better and it sounds better overall. So,
So why did you start? Okay, let's actually pause on that one. Rewind a bit. How did you get into music? Like, why did you start playing the drums?
I don't know. So I don't know. My family's not really into music. My mom plays piano so great and she sounds beautiful on the piano, but she doesn't really take it, seriously. And I think when I was about, I want to say 10 or 11, for some reason I was hooked and I just wanted a drum set so bad. Something about it just seemed awesome. They were always back there rocking out. This is around the time I was like discovering that music really exists. Like everyone, when you're a kid, music exists. And it's like, oh, okay, whatever. But it's really like I started looking at what's happening and I realized like people release albums, like they'll have like 10 or 12 of them if they want to. And one artist that really got me, like really intrigued me from a young age was the Beatles, which I think a lot of people kind of have that awakening with them. And it's like, oh, like these guys got something, they got something different going on. And so I found the Beatles and I bought Abbey Road from Walmart. And I remember taking it home and I remember listening to that in the car and I was like, wow, this is like a cool, I've never heard anything like this in my life. And then from there, you know, we had the CDs like that were sitting around the house was like Tom Petty, Johnny Cash was a big one, Billy Joel, you know, guys like that. And I just started listening to all these guys and I was like, everyone's like sounds different. Like I didn't know you could sound different and have these different, you know, and it's just like, that's what that your brain starts like, and even if you don't realize in the moment, your brain just slowly starts like making all these different connections. And so that's really has nothing to do with like the drums really, but it's just, this is around the time where I was really starting to look at these different, you know, I had a little black MP3 and I got a couple songs on there I just put on repeat, but that's when I really started looking at like music and the different layers of it. And I thought for some reason the drums was just this like unspoken, I just needed to have them. So I got I got a small little drum set for Christmas that I still have, and it's still sitting in the basement. I record all my drums with it, and yeah, and that was my first instrument. And from there, you know, we had a piano sitting around the house. I kind of pick things up by ear. So I would kind of pick things up by ear. You know, I'd hear a song and try and plunk it on this out of tune piano. But then, you know, guitar comes from there, and I find guitar and bass are relatively like they're pretty accessible from one another. So I kind of hit guitar first, then I went to bass. And, you know, from there, it's like, you know, the list goes on. Like when you get more inspired, you know, I got really inspired relatively recently by bluegrass music. And so that consists of like mandolin, banjo. So I, of course, had to go and get those and learn them. And the banjo was my quarantine project. That's the one I tried to pick up. It is ridiculous. I don't know. Those people got like the coordination and dexterity is ridiculous. Anyone who plays a banjo, man, there's some talent there. But yeah, it's just I started off with the drums almost for no particular reason other than it just felt right. It just felt like what was supposed to happen, and I'm thankful it did because I feel like it led down a pretty good path for me to go on.
Okay, so you learn the drums, and like it's going great. You know, but you're playing people's songs. At what time do you say, okay, I can write my songs to these things I'm playing?
Yeah, so I think it kind of happened. It happened relatively fast, like the writing process. I guess I had sat down at the drums. I remember when I got these drums for Christmas, I went downstairs and they were just sitting there, like they just had them all laid out for me to just see. And I was like, oh, the drums, this is the coolest thing ever. And so I sit right down, and I just recently heard, and this was the craziest song at the time, I recently heard The Trooper by Iron Maiden, which is Iron Maiden. Like they go, like this is a very crazy song. And I was like 11 years old. So I sit right down and I play it, and it's so incorrect. Like I played it so wrong, but I still had the beat. You know what I mean? Like I kind of felt what to do. And so that, I guess, you know, that's what kind of happens. And that's what happens when I defiantly refuse these lessons, is normally when I sit down at an instrument, I'm playing it wrong, inherently wrong, but it's something that, I don't know, it's like that wrong path usually leads, and it kind of straightens out and leads to a right one, but you kind of have to get over that hump. So that's what I did with drums. But like, it's still like the way I was playing, even though it was inherently wrong, it felt right to me. So it's like, I would write like 3 other songs with the same beat, but they all felt different to me. I know they sound so wrong and so bad, but it's like, to me, it's like, yeah, like I'm rocking out. Like this is all I know how to do, but it's sounding great and feeling great. And that's the most important part, is that it feels great on the inside when I'm doing this. So yeah. And then I guess I just started writing. I had an acoustic guitar sitting at home, and I remember I'd bring over my friends and we'd all just write a song. They had no interest in music whatsoever, but that was like the driving force of my life. So I was like, we got to write a song. And they're like, okay, this seems like something I've never done before, whatever. And so we just like write these songs that I think I even still remember. And I mean, like it would just
did the
yeah, and then
songs
I would
have
just
titles or you just write them?
I remember I had one song that I wrote with my friend that I think we hung out this one time and then like we like basically lost touch. But this was like grade. This is a long time ago, but it was called Playing in the Rain. And I remember it was like, hey, maybe I should bring it back, eh? I don't know, but I think I remember what I would do is I would sit down with my acoustic guitar and we would both write the words on like some loose leaf. And then I would go and play the drums and be like, okay, let's just pretend this beat's playing in the background. Because I couldn't, at this point, you know, recording and layering, it's another where I haven't even discovered that recording process yet. So it's just, I remember, I know we would have the beat in our heads, or I would, and then we would play the song. But, you know, from there, you know, much more conventional writing comes into play. Like, I remember I started just hearing like melodies in my head or different words in my head that I would just like write in my notes in my little iPod or something. And that probably started happening like a couple of years after, you know, you just learn more about music. And I think that just comes with like maturing and growing older, so you understand the process of more things quickly and easier. Like, I think I'm like, when you get older, it's like you see something, it's like, this is probably how that works. But it's like when you're a kid, it's like, it's fair game. Like, you know, things happen, but you don't know or care how they happen. They just happen and you're going to go about your own life. But I think, yeah, when you get older and you mature more, you kind of write these songs. And like, if I was to compare the songs that I write now compared to the songs I wrote before, there's going to be a difference. But it's like, if I were also to compare the songs I'm writing now to the songs I'm going to write in 10 years, there's going to be a big difference as well. I compare those songs to when I'm 90, 100 years old, God willing, then there's going to be a big difference, because that stuff just evolves, and it doesn't matter if you're musically inclined or not. It's just your way of thinking changes, and your experiences change the way you think, you know? And I think that kind of, it's a cycle. And I think it is like, it's exciting because you're constantly maturing, you're constantly growing older, and whether you can relate this to music or you can just relate this to the way you operate on a day-to-day basis, you know, we're always growing, I guess. So I still got room to go.
Yeah, no, that's very true. So okay, you hang out with your friend, put this music together. At what time do you think, okay, I'm going to record this?
Recording didn't come till like, see, I moved to Halifax about 3 years ago. And I'd always wanted to record, but when you don't have like a studio or like someone that you know at a studio that's like, come to my studio and we'll just record this up. When you don't have that connection, it's like a very foreign world. And I remember having some songs written, and you know, this is when I got like my first electric guitar, and I was like, oh, I was just rocking it, whatever. And I remember I got my first electric guitar, and I was like, I remember watching guys on stage and being like, I could do that, but like to get there you need to record. So I was like, well, how do I don't know anybody at a studio, I don't know anybody who record. Looks like I'm just gonna have to do it myself. So I have to do all this research and like, how do you record? And at first I thought it was you get one of those like news reporter handheld recorders and you just like put it in the middle of a room. I just didn't, nothing made sense. But I then realized, you know, there's like equipment you need. So I was like, okay, well, what equipment do you need? And you need an interface. So you have to search out the best interfaces. And I ended up just doing all this research. And then I ended up moving to Halifax. And a guy actually reached out to me. And he was like, hey, man, I saw your stuff on the internet. Would you, like, have you ever thought of recording and writing a song? And I was like, that's all I've been thinking about the past like,
before
year.
you continue, you said like you had stuff on the internet. What other things did you have on the internet?
Mainly just videos of me playing whatever cover. I never had any like original songs or anything on the internet, but I would usually, when I would play, you know, any kind of live, like at school or something, any kind of live performance or busking, I would usually like post a little snippet, you know, let people know that I am, you know, I'm into the music. This is what songs I'm doing, whatever. No one really ever like cared. It was more for just kind of my, you know, but I just I felt like I had to put it out there. So I kind of had a little collection of videos and little snippets on,
Oh,
Instagram and
all
YouTube.
right. Okay.
And so this guy found them and he was like, hey, it's great. I love this, and this. Have you ever thought of writing your own songs and recording them? And I was like, that's all I've been thinking about the past year. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't know how to get there. And he was like, well, I love your stuff. And I have a little small, humble studio space, and I would love to, get together and see what happens. I was like, dude, like, this is it. Like, I made it. Like, I'm gonna. This is awesome. Like, this is where it's gonna. Like, all the events have led me to this point. So I meet him. His name's Bray Sherman. Absolutely the nicest guy, and he lives in Halifax. He's a producer, very talented. And so we get together. I don't know what I'm doing. I just brought my little electric guitar over, and I was like, so this is what I was thinking. And he was like, okay, well, that's cool. Like, but we'll work on something. And so we kind of ditched everything that I brought in. And we were like, okay, let's just write something together right now. And, it kind of took a lot of forms. Like, at this time, this is, I guess I would have been grade 10. I would have just turned 15. And I remember I just recently found like soul music. And the way I found soul music was, I think, pretty unconventional. I heard Childish Gambino's Awaken My Love album from 2016. And that has like Redbone on it, which is a very popular song. And I heard that on the radio and I was like, what kind of music is this? This is one of the greatest things I've ever heard. But I couldn't really put my finger on it. And everyone was saying it's like R&B, neo soul. And I was like, I got to figure out what that is. And I remember offhandedly, I found The Temptations' Ain't Too Proud to Beg. And I was like, this is it. This is where this is music. Because these guys that are singing, like, I just feel it. I feel whatever I ain't too proud to beg. Please don't leave me, girl. Like, he's like, but it's like so upbeat and so bouncy and happy. It's like, what a clash. You know what I mean? Like, this does not sound like it's, and it was just so intriguing to me. So I remember I was just like breaching that universe. And I kind of came in there and I was like, I want to write whatever this is. Like, I want to like purvey this, And I remember it was like, that's a bit of a struggle when you haven't listened to it a long time. You don't really know how to go about it. So, but my home base, which I think, when you're 15 years old, that's a lot of people's home bases, is just like rock and roll. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what's easiest to come back to. And so when we kind of naturally went at it, we started writing in like his little studio space. Rock and roll was just very easy to spit out. You know what I mean? So then the end product being a song called Tired Eyes that is on, Spotify and whatnot. That, I feel like that is a mix of a lot of different things, but I feel like a lot of those things kind of got lost in translation with it just being like a rock song, which I'm not even not happy about, because I think the end product is something that can be proud of, but I think there's a lot of things that I wanted to do with that song that necessarily didn't necessarily got lost in translation. So and flashing forward with this record I want to put out, or this little EP I want to put out before the summer, that's kind of this effort's kind of me. Okay, let's take a step back. Because I've been working on this little EP for like a year and a half, just re-recording songs, writing all these songs, just honing all the craft that I can by myself, because I want the exterior influences to show a lot brighter and clearer. I don't want it to just be like this is a rock record or this is a blues record. I wanted to, okay, well, this is kind of got a rock energy to it, but it's got a very bluesy feel, or this is kind of got like a more laid back, but it's kind of country, it's kind of westerny folk, So I want a lot of those. I want a lot of those influences to show. So I think it's something I couldn't really accomplish, I guess 2 years ago, but it's something I can definitely accomplish now. And I'd rather take my time with it and let that happen rather than rush it out, So I think that's kind of how I feel about that first one. But, it's not a bad song. It's not bad.
Yeah, no, I like Tired Eyes. And then what was the process of making You Got It?
So that one came about a bit differently. So I released the first one, Tired Eyes, in January of 2019. And so I played a couple gigs after that. And I was kind of touring. I not really touring, but I was touring around the HRM, if you will, with another band that I had kind of just with a couple of my high school friends. Kind of started to pick up, but people get busy and it's high school, you know what I mean? So things come and go relatively quickly. But that was a great group to have. And coming off that, going into that summer around June of 2019, I kind of wanted to, record another one, maybe record now, who knows? Because I had a bunch of songs written. I was like, okay, this time I'm ready to do something else. And so I reached out to a producer that I knew named Chris Ionetti, and very talented guy as well. The thing with him is he was a bit more like he's been around, like he's older. Bray's like only a young guy, like and it was more kind of just us collaborating stuff. But when I was going in to record the second single, he was recording someone else's album. I forget her name, but I did listen through it. It was very good. But I reached out to Chris, and he accepts me, and I kind of come in with a couple recordings I made at home, because at this point I kind of had like a very small studio setup. I couldn't have any. I would just play my guitar into my laptop, and like I had a little like drum machine app with the keyboard, but I couldn't do any effects on my guitar, so it was really just like very plasticky sounding guitar. So I bring Chris in a couple of these recordings that are like so busted, and I was like, yeah, man, this is what I was thinking. Like I have a couple of these songs, and he's like, okay, like these are fine. And so we pick one out of I think the three that I brought in, and that ends up being "You Got It," the second single I released there. And it kind of went through the first. It's very similar to the demo that I kind of concocted in my head. I play all the instruments again on that one, like the first one. It's a bit of a theme. I don't know. I guess I'm a bit of a control freak, but I get on there. I start playing. He helps out with like a lot. He does a lot of like the computer work. A much more advanced, high end studio than Bray's. Not even against Bray's, but Bray's more of like a young guy, kind of more of an intimate setup. Chris just did this big renovation into a studio, big vocal booth, big all this. So neither one's necessarily better or worse. It's just very different. Mm-hmm. And I think I was kind of expecting the vibe of Bray when I was going into Chris's studio. So and this is my this is my second time in the studio. So I was almost like it was just like I didn't know really how to operate, because a lot of what Bray and I did was just like we just sat and hung out, talked about music. Like it was very low key and very mellow and very organic. But Chris was he's more like at the high end studio is more business, like and he doesn't want me any longer there as well. Like we got to spit this song out, and which is a very good way to operate. It's just again two sides of the coin. So I was kind of going in expecting the first time, and I didn't really know how to operate in the studio. So it was kind of, I kind of just get going. We spit this song out, and yeah, it ends up being "You Got It." What I feel is a much more mature song for who I was at the time. Again, I look back at it now, and especially because I'm going, like I'm going to turn 18 in like a month and a half. So I'm only 17. So like I don't know anything about maturity. But I think like when I think back to when I was 15, when I spit this song out, and it's just like it was a much more mature song for who I was at the time. But now that I'm 17, looking back at both these songs, it's like, okay, well, I can do a lot better. And I know I can do a lot better because now I'm recording these songs myself rather than having to rely on someone else. And it's like, the thing is, I don't know if it's necessarily better that I'm recording them myself, and I'm definitely no professional by any means. I'm very amateur at it, but I think that it's like one perk because it's like 100% me. Like it's very vulnerable. It's like it's 100% no one else. No message can be misconstrued because no one's like checked it out. Like it's all me, So I don't know if it'll work or not until I really put it out there. But I am very excited for it. But yeah, so that's kind of yeah. No, I was gonna ramble.
Go on.
I was just gonna say that's kind of how that second song kind of came out.
Okay, no.
Yeah,
like I played those two songs a lot of times on my radio show, and like I mean, the feedback I get is always great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, love it, love them. And now you're saying this EP, you're like recording everything. So what did you like set up your own studio, or what's going on there?
Yeah, so I did a lot of research, and yeah, I have a very humble studio space in my basement. And yeah, I record drums there. I got a little setup. If a professional producer came and checked this out, they would probably frown upon it. But it's I've kind of found a combination of relatively cheap mics to kind of stitch them together and get the job done. But
Yeah.
recording drums has been the hardest part. But yeah, I think I've got it done, and yeah, and then I record bass and guitar, and I'm trying to think what other instruments we have even on there. Got a couple people to do some strings and horns as well. And yeah, it's just yeah, so I'm attacking a real different flavor with this little because I feel like this sound that I'm about to put out is kind of what I've always wanted to go for, but again, it's kind of been a little just this far out of reach, and I think that what I put out with these last two singles was just like what was natural, but like not necessarily what I wanted to do. But I think these songs that I'm putting out, especially this first single I'm going to release, I think it's really what I want to do and what's natural. So it's exciting that it's both, and it's like a very organic process to spit out. But yeah,
what is this single called?
So the first single I'm going to release is called California, I'm Comin. And that song is about somebody going to California in search of stardom and fame, and realizing that it's impossible and you can't do it anymore. And he ends up washed up and not who he wants to be and unhappy. And he regrets the day that he ever said, California, I'm coming, instead of just, getting an education, getting a job, having a family, but I think it's kind of loosely, I wouldn't even say loosely. It's very inspired by, who I am and who I was growing up, because up until very recently, I was going to move to New York, busk on the streets until something happened. But it's about that. I think the person in this song, they're very outdated, and that's a very outdated way to go about it, because now with social media and a multitude of reasons, the whole process is different. You can't just it used to be like people spitting out record deals, like you just get big and you just you make it or whatever. But that concept, those two concepts are almost they just don't exist anymore. It's not how it works. It's just not how it goes anymore. So I think the song is kind of funny to me, because the person going through this is so outdated and they just don't understand, but they're going to find out the hard way. And that's kind of who I was.
Is this a song that has the horns on it?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love horns. I'm not even going to lie.
Well, I hope you like this one too. It's got some, organ, whatever I can throw in there,
So is it done or?
Very close to being done. So that one I want to release relatively in the near future. That one's still getting mixed around right now, and a few things being fixed up vocal wise, but really, yeah, I just kind of did the vocals a couple days ago, and it sounds like when I say that, it sounds like I'm like it's a big thing. I was really just in my pajamas in my basement singing, but because it's all me. But yeah, I just sang and did the vocals, and I'm just kind of doing some producing work, some backing vocals, fixing up a couple small spots that are a bit messy the first go around. And this song is funny because I feel like because I've done this before, this song I re-recorded this song. I think this is the fifth iteration of it, because I recorded the demo, a very basic demo, and I was like, this song rocks. It is awesome. But then I tried to record it again, because it was a very messy demo. I just kind of threw it together, and I was like, okay, this will be the good copy, if you will. And tried to record it again, and I just couldn't get the same feel. And I didn't want to okay, whatever, let's just put it out. I wanted it to really feel good. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying, I think earlier, just taking my time to really be careful and make sure that this is 100% me and 100% what I want to be represented by. And so I put this second version together, and it's just it's not working. So anyways, 2, 3, 4 times a day. And I was like, but I know I don't want to just trash this song, throw it by the wayside because it's a fun song. It is like I like it, and so this time I went at it. I got some advice, and it was like we were talking about vocals and just like mixing them. It's like when you have the highs and lows, you always cut, you never add, because that would just make it muddy. So I was like, okay, let me take that mindset, that principle, and add it to my struggle to recording the song instead of, because I already heard the end goal because I recorded this demo. So I was like, let's just drop all that, record very basically, like what I think the song should be, bare bones. And then when I have that and I'm happy with it, that's when I can add very small amounts of things rather than just going crazy. And that's a problem with when you're recording just by yourself. It's like you can go crazy and no one's going to say anything, but that might that might be at like the detriment of that may be yours. So like I think that like it's like you have no one there to keep you in check or coach you or anything. And so, and I don't know if that's for the better or for worse, but I think it varies. But I think, yeah, so that's the problem I struggle with a lot, is just not going crazy or not doing enough. So I kind of have to find a balance. And so that one I'd struggle with, but this time I definitely got it. And I'm very happy with the end product now. So fifth time's a charm. Yeah. yeah.
Okay. So you know what? Like I mean, when you kind of mention tracks, like I edit, right? So I kind of know, okay, so like this video can go here and you can put a video here, or you put this sound here. So talk me through it when you're making a song. Like, how do you, like, what is the very first track you lay, right? And then how do you add the other pieces until like you kind of know what the song is, and then you play one instrument from beginning to end, and then you do that for every single one?
Yeah, so it varies. Conventionally, you would, I guess, do what's called bed tracks. So you would, I would sit down, if I was primarily an acoustic guitar singer guy, I would have this song written on the acoustic guitar and sing it. And then I would just put a microphone right here, hit record, and just play the song to like a metronome so you can have the form. And then what you would do with that is you would have the drummer come in, sit down in his drums and play that track of the main form of the song in his headphones, and he play drums along to that. And then you got the bass guy. Bass man comes in, plays the bass along to the drums, Then you'd probably hit the guitar next. So you got that guitar over, and so then you got that drums, bass, guitar trifecta, which is the staple of all Western music for the last, however many years. And you got that little foundation. And so then from there, you can add, if you got some keys, add some keys like piano, organ, synth, whatever. Some percussion, if you want to put in some percussion. That's kind of when you got a little free reign. And then top it all off with the cherry on top, the vocals, hit the vocals. I think that's roughly the process. There's always like different ways you can rearrange it, but usually the drums go first just to, so everything's kind of based off the drums so it doesn't sound messy. With my recordings, I like to, usually skip the first part of the bed track, because if it's just me, I know the song, so I kind of like to just hear it in my head. Oh. And what I also think that does, which a lot of people would frown upon this, but I like for my recordings to be just a bit messy, like just a bit unrefined. So it's like, this does sound a little amateur, because I don't know, I like recordings that really have like a raw edge to it, and they really feel like it's almost like an energetic live performance. I want this to feel like they're there and they're hearing me play this, and it's like everyone's jumping, everyone's jamming and grooving and have a good time. I find recordings that are too heavily produced, it's not that there's anything bad with it, and it's definitely like a admirable style, but it's not one that really feels me. I just feel like I'm a very like high energy guy. I like to jump around and do my thing, and so I like for my recordings to be just a bit messy, so it feels raw, it feels natural, it feels like this is being played in front of me. You're allowed to screw up because the energy's there, and that's all that matters, and it's got me feeling good when I'm listening. So I think I like to just kind of play the drums as to how I hear it in my head, and I find that kind of does just enough to kind of make it just a little bit unrefined. And so then I hit bass over that, I'll hit some guitar over that, and then the rest is history, I guess.
Mm, mm, mm. Okay. All right. But like, how long in the average would you say it takes you to finish one song? Like, that's going to be on this EP.
It depends. I think the writing for me is usually pretty fast. Like when I hear an idea, I usually like it usually unravels pretty fast, and that's how you know it's a good idea is when it unravels real fast, and I'm not struggling to finish it or put it together. If it struggles and I take too long with it, I more than likely just end up ditching it and never using it.
Mm-hmm.
But the recording for me takes a little bit longer. Mainly one because I'm not very good at it, but two because it is all me. So it's like I don't really have anyone else to rely on mentally. So when I'm sitting there for like 4 or 5 hours just recording, my basement has no heat, like it's freezing down there, and it's like I can only like sometimes you just have to like, okay, that was good for today. I gotta take a break, like because mentally it's like sometimes it can be tiring just sitting down there not talking for like 5 hours, just sitting at your computer. Your posture's all everything. It takes a little toll on you. So I think that it sometimes takes me a little longer. It depends on like the song. Like I've had songs that I've recorded in, almost a day, like a day and a half, not including mixing, because that's a little harder. But I've had some songs like this single I've been working on, California, I'm Coming.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on that for almost a year, like just re-recording. I recorded that original demo May of last year, 2020. And I'm intending to release it, late May 2021. So it's been in the works for a while, but yeah, it always depends,
Do you think it would be faster if you like worked with more people?
Yes, I do.
Band or something?
I do really think, or even if I worked with a producer, but I don't know why I don't. I think it's because I think I am like I think it started as I was like I couldn't find anybody to really like commit to this project, so I was like, I just got to do it myself,
I
and
know what you're talking about. I know exactly what
yeah,
you're talking about. Like it can be difficult. You have this
yeah,
idea and it sounds great, and then you reach out to people and you're like, "Hey, let's do this thing." I'm like, "Oh man, this idea is great. Let's do it." And then someone has, this thing to do, and then that other person has this thing to do, and it's kind of difficult for you to be like, but we agreed to do this thing because it is your thing, right? And they have their thing to do. So
yeah,
sometimes I'm like, fuck it, I'll just do it myself, man. I'll just do it myself.
yeah.
But like the difference between me and you is that most times you just need a camera, a mic. That's it. But you're like doing 20 things. So if I had to do something that took 5-6 things, I would never do it myself. That's very true. So respect for doing all that and like putting in the work to do all these things you're doing. I know you have some mixing to do, but I'm gonna let you go with this question though. Why make music?
Why make music? It's a good question. I think music is something that is just it's because some people think that it's like, oh well, he's a musician, she's a musician, I could never be a musician, I'm just not a musician, I can't play guitar, I'm not a musician. But I think it's funny because I'm gonna get real philosophical here. This is gonna be awesome, man. Listen. I think music is something that isn't. It's not necessarily inside me. It's not necessarily inside you. It's not inside anybody. I think it's just. It's just present. Wherever you go, no matter what you do. And I'm a big guy of like equality, unity, multicultural unity, everything. I think that we're all joined together by something, and I think. Whether that's, God, whether that's something crazy that the human mind can't comprehend, I think one facet of it or one form of it that we can't comprehend is music. And I think it's a very spiritual presence. I think it's a force that like kind of unites us all. Like I think I was saying earlier, like maybe you can't play guitar, but you can, clap along, snap, do your thing, whatever. Or you could rip the greatest guitar solo anyone's ever seen. I think music is something that anyone can do and anyone can join in on. And I think everyone gets a relatively good feeling about it. And I think it's funny because it's just something that I'm so proud to do. And it's something that it's natural to me because I want it to be, because it makes me so happy and it makes me feel so good. And there's so many different types of music, and it's like, well, why does all these different types of music make me feel the same way? Or like, why does this type of music not make me feel very good, but this type of music makes me feel real good? And I think it's just it's great because there's something out there for everybody. And if I can contribute my little tiny piece to somebody that might get a good feeling from it, then that's the most satisfying thing that I think I could ever do. And I think, of course I want to accomplish, different things with my life, and there's different goals I have and whatever. But I think, one, it's therapeutic for me and makes me feel good. But two, if it makes someone else feel good, then that's the greatest accomplishment I could ever achieve. So it's something, I don't know, the answer might be somewhere in there.
No, I got it. Man, Joe, thanks so much for coming to the Sanctuary and sharing so much about your work. I mean, I'm going to ask for a big favor. I'd love to play out the show, not with California, like the whole song, but just a section of the song. I just need like 20 seconds. That's it.
I can definitely do it. Do you want me to send you something? I can definitely do that for you.
Yes, just 20 seconds. That's what I like to play out this episode with.
I can definitely do that for you. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored to be here. I had a blast.